welcome to our English news edition broadcast to you by Canal Algérie. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, pays a courtesy visit to the participants in the proceedings of the Conference for the Palestinian National Unity taking place in the Palace of the Nations here in Algiers. The Palestinian factions are united once again in Algeria, and the participants hail Algeria's paramount role in the support of the Palestinian cause. The holding of elections in Libya remains the only solution to achieve stability in the country, confirms the chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus Al-Manfi, who is on a visit to Algeria. Algeria partakes in the proceedings of the 5th International Forum entitled the Russian Week for Energy, which brings together ministers of energy and leaders of major energy companies from all around the world. Good evening, those were today's headlines. First, in our news, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, pays on Wednesday a courtesy visit to the participants in the proceedings of the Conference for the Palestinian National Unity taking place in the Palace of the Nations here in Algiers. A visit, the aim of which is to encourage the efforts made to achieve the set goals.
نحن سعداء جدا نكون معكم. شكرا سيدي. شكرا لكم على استضافتكم. شرفتونا وجهودكم.
مقيس. حياكم الله، شكرا كثير على المبادرة، دائما الجزائر بالمحل الصح.
أنا صالح رأفت زميلك في المدرسة الوطنية للإدارة.
الحمد لله، إن شاء الله بخير، إن شاء الله بخير، إن شاء الله. إحنا شاكرين جدا.
عاشت الجزائر العربية الحرة، عاشت فلسطين العربية الحرة.
The conference will be culminated later in the day with the signing of the Algiers Declaration, a solid platform that will pave the way for achieving unity among all Palestinian factions. On Tuesday, and in a historic meeting, the Palestinian factions reunited once again in Algeria with the aim to achieve the Palestinian national unity. The participants in the meeting, organized at the Palace of the Nations, discussed several points included in the Palestinian dialogue sessions and which relate to the achievement of unity between the Palestinian factions. The participants also hailed Algeria's pivotal role in supporting the Palestinian cause and peoples. Our newsmen were on the spot and compiled the following statements made by the participants in the meeting.
We hope that this summit will be a good start for Algeria. We are optimistic because with regard to the Palestinian issue, it was a positive and smooth debate. Algeria is the brotherly country that has always supported and stood with the Palestinian cause at the most hard moments, and in a time of distress, Algeria was the first to help and support us. Palestine has been divided into two parts for more than 15 years, which has weakened the Palestinian cause and caused damage to it. This is a symbol of the real support provided by Algeria to Palestine, especially as it is going through a difficult stage of Zionist attacks. This day, which Algeria devoted to reunification, is a great victory for the Palestinian cause. We extend our thanks and appreciation to His Excellency President Abdelmajid Tebboune for the initiative he launched. This initiative reflects Algeria's constant keenness to unite the Palestinian ranks. Algeria always keeps its promises, especially when it comes to the Palestinian cause and the right to self-determination. Thanks and appreciation for these efforts. This is a great step that was achieved with difficulty. This reconciliation is due to our Algerian brothers who played a great role. This is a memorable day in the history of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian reconciliation was achieved on the Algerian land, the country of 1.5 million martyrs. Thanks and sincere greetings from the Palestinian people to the Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune and to the Algerian people for facilitating the reunification of the Palestinian national components. Algeria is the second Palestine. The Palestinian people will never forget this.
Algeria grants a huge importance to the support of democracy and the people's right for independence. After 15 years of division, the holding of the Conference for the Palestinian National Unity in Algiers is yet another proof of Algeria's unwavering support for the Palestinian cause, a conference on which the Palestinian people are pinning high hopes. Report by Wissam Abu Zaid, commentary by Melissa Kebash.
15 years before the division of Palestine, this young man was barely 10 years old. And now, after pursuing his educational path, the division's circumstances and that of colonization and blockade landed him here as a shoe seller. When the division occurred, I was about 10 years old. The division was between the Hamas movement and Al Fatah. I was 5 years old. We've never had a normal life. We don't even have jobs. The Palestinian division affected enormously the economic and social lives, as well as the Palestinian policy of several generations that still hopes for reconciliation. We want reconciliation. We want them to find a solution. Who doesn't want this? People are upset. May God be with them. The division affected numerous fields, namely the educational and health sectors. Unification is a must to solve all these problems. The Algerian efforts are ongoing and are very appreciated in the Palestinian streets to unify ranks and face the upcoming challenges. Palestinians also expressed their full trust in Algeria, wishing for a real reconciliation and the end of this division, especially that the colonizer is the only beneficiary.
In other news, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Wednesday at the Presidency of the Republic the President of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus El-Menfi, who is on a 2-day visit to Algeria. The President of the Republic reserved an official welcome to the President of the Libyan Presidential Council at the premises of the Presidency of the Republic. the national... After listening to the national anthems of the two countries, both the President of the Republic and Mohammed Yunus al-Manfi reviewed a detachment of the Republican Guard as well as units of the National People's Army, which honored them. Later on, the President of the Republic held face-to-face discussions with the chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council. Later on, the discussions were then extended to the delegations of both countries. On the Algerian side, the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Mtala Mamra, the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency Abdelaziz Khalaf, as well as the Algerian Ambassador to Tripoli Slimane Chennine were present. As for the Libyan side, the discussions took place in the presence of the delegation accompanying the chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council. In a joint statement with the chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus al-Manfi, and following their discussions held at the Presidency of the Republic, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, expressed his willingness to make the year 2023 the year during which the Libyan crisis is resolved, thus marking the end of the Libyan people's suffering. It will also allow this brotherly country to regain its stability and move forward towards development and prosperity. The President of the Republic also affirmed that the friendly and brotherly countries are convinced that the holding of elections is the only solution. For his part, the chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus al-Manfi, hailed Algeria's support to the Libyan people, highlighting its paramount role in the upcoming step for the settlement of the Libyan crisis. Let's have a listen.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بادئ عندي بدء وجدد ترحيب بأخي محمد يونس المنفي والوفد المرافق له الأشقاء الليبيين. طبعا معروف أخي يونس رئيس المجلس الرئاسي الليبي منذ أيام قليلة أحيا الشعبين الجزائري والليبي ذكرى معركة أعطيناها قيمة خاصة هذه المرة تقربا للشعب الليبي الشقيق اللي ضحى كثير من أجل الجزائر أيام الثورة الجزائرية. وهذا لهذا السبب احنا اليوم جندين كل تجنيد من أجل الشعب الليبي وراحة الشعب الليبي واستقرار ليبيا، استقرار في نمط التسيير وفي مرحلة هدوء يختارها الشعب الليبي والشعب الليبي وحده. احنا منذ سنة ونيف كان بيناتنا لقاء وما غيرنا وما بدلوا تبديلا. احنا من البداية عارفين باللي كل الحلول ما فيها إلا حل واحد اللي يكون ناجع واللي يوصل شيء ليبيا الشقيقة إلى الاستقرار والرخاء والازدهار، هو الرجوع إلى الشعب الليبي يختار من حب، يعطي الشرعية لمن حب، والعالم كله يتعامل مع الناس اللي يخرجوا من الصندوق، نعطاهم الشعب الليبي التمثيل تاعو شرعي. إذن نأمل كثير باش ربما سنة 2023 تكون سنة الحل بالنسبة لليبيا، وإحنا متفائلين لأن بالتقريب كل الأصدقاء سواء في أوروبا وخارج أوروبا ولا غير أوروبا وحتى الأشقاء تيقنوا اليوم باللي الحل في ليبيا يمر على الانتخابات داخلها، والانتخابات كما يحبوها الليبيين ولا واحد يفرض عليهم. ليبيا معروفة، ليبيا دولة لها ثرواتها، لها دولة غنية، من المفروض يعني تكون رفاهية الشعب يعني واضحة للجميع، بل ظروف خلت ليبيا والشعب الليبي يمر على هذا. إن شاء الله هذه نهاية المأساة، نتمنى إن شاء الله باش أثناء سنة 2023 تكون هي نهاية المأساة تاع الشعب الليبي، وترجع ليبيا الشقيقة لاستقرارها ولاستغلال ثرواتها ولتقدم والازدهار. مرحبا بك مرة أخرى أخي يونس، والكلمة لك.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Abdelmajid Tebboune, my dear brother, as well as the heroic Algerian people, for the warm welcome. As mentioned by the President, we would like to reaffirm the agreement concerning the elections, which are the solution for the Libyan people, in addition to agreeing on a constitutional rule to establish the elections as soon as possible to gain back political stability in Libya. We've also discussed Algeria's important role in the upcoming future, particularly the Arab Summit, with an aim to come out with a unified Arab position. And we know that the Algerian diplomacy under the leadership of the President will come out with a unified position concerning the Libyan cause and the holding of the elections in the near future. We've also highlighted the bilateral relations between the two countries, knowing that the migration and security problems alongside other encountered by the world, in addition to food security, that will be growing in the upcoming period. Stability in Libya is very important to the entire region. Our Algerian brothers confirmed and recalled that Libya's support can be witnessed by this Algerian noble stand from the President, members of the government and the Algerian people. We highly appreciate this move that will help the Presidential Council to hold elections as soon as possible, in addition to the National Reconciliation File, considered as one of the most important files. The Presidential Council, for its part, could support the Libyan youth to carry this reconciliation operation, because the young people, as we agreed on with the President, will carry the Libyan independent state. And once again, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Later in the day, the chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus al-Manfi, accompanied by the Foreign Minister Mtal Amamra, carried out a visit to the Central Museum of the Army, where he received explanations regarding the history of the struggle of the Algerian people during the Liberation War. Mohammed Yunus al-Manfi then signed the Golden Register of the museum, and in a statement made on the occasion, the chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council recalled and hailed the deeply rooted relations existing between the two brotherly countries, Algeria and Libya. The chairman of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed Yunus al-Manfi, left the capital Algiers. He was seen off at the Houari Boumediene International Airport by the Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman. In a different story, a conference on the Arab Summit due to be held in Algiers was held at the National School of Journalism and Information Sciences in the presence of journalists as well as national and foreign experts. The media's role in the unification of the Arab ranks was the main topic of this conference. Ines Killu has the details.
A few weeks before the Arab Summit in Algiers, The role of the media in the global efforts to unify Arab ranks was highlighted at a conference that brought together many national and foreign experts and journalists to discuss the issue.
The challenges facing the Arab world require us to redouble our efforts and work in a complementary manner to further develop our skills in order to meet all the expectations of the Arab countries and thus convey the expectations of the Arab people in a credible manner at the regional and international level.
Je pense que les médias sont l'image de ce monde arabe. Mais cela dit,
the media is the image of the Arab world. We have a golden opportunity and we have to use it and to take advantage of it to help the Arab nation and the Palestinian cause in particular.
The Palestinian cause will be one of the central issues addressed at the Arab Summit in Algiers, described as a summit of many opportunities, an event that aims to bring people together and unify them. The world is constantly changing, priorities are shifting. This Arab Summit must address all these issues and deal with them in a way that serves the interest of the Arab world. As you know, we have seen behind the scenes that a lot of efforts has gone into preparing the summit and making it a starting point for building and constructing a new, stronger and unified Arab world. It is an exceptional event that will be hosted in a country such as Algeria, a free and sovereign country, a country whose values of mutual aid and solidarity with other countries are immutable. Therefore, the media are invited to unite their efforts and actively participate in the process already underway to help achieve the goals of the 31st Arab Summit and help to consolidate the dynamics of relations between the Arab countries and put the concerns of the Arab world at the heart of the debates.
In another development, the Energy Minister Mohammed Arqab took part in the proceedings of the 5th International Forum entitled The Russian Week for Energy. This high-level international event, organized since 2017, brings together ministers of energy and leaders of major energy companies, as well as senior officials, experts and decision-makers to discuss the global energy dynamics and facilitate dialogue around issues which impact the energy sector. On the sidelines of the forum held in Moscow, the Energy Minister Mohammed Arqab held discussions with the Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak. The two parties discussed the bilateral relations between the two countries in the energy sector and affirmed the willingness of both countries to strengthen cooperation in the energy and renewable energy sector. Mohammed Arqab also met with his Syrian counterpart Bassam Tama, to whom he affirmed Algeria's readiness to exchange its expertise in the field of hydrocarbons. In other news, the proceedings of the Algeria European Union Forum on Energy ended on Wednesday, a forum the objective of which was to promote investment between the Algerian and European companies in the sector of energy. In a different context, the members of the Council of the Nation started on Wednesday the debate of the government's Declaration on General Policy, presented on Tuesday by Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman during a plenary session chaired by Saleh Goujil, the President of the Council of the Nation. The plenary session held today will be devoted to the interventions of the presidents of the parliamentary groups, which will be followed by the Prime Minister's response to questions asked by the senators. It is worth recalling that this session includes data relating to the implementation of actions achieved by the different sectors as the assessment of the government's achievements since the adoption of its action plan on September of 2021. During the 17th plenary session of the United Nations General Assembly, Algeria was elected as official member of the Human Rights Council of the United Nations for the 2023-2025 period, an election which comes as a recognition of Algeria's pivotal role in the promotion and protection of human rights around the world. The details with Ines Killo.
Known and recognized for defending and promoting the principles and values of human rights in the world, Algeria had no difficulty in granting its place in the United Nations Human Rights Council for the period 2023-2025. Algeria was brilliantly elected with 178 votes out of 193 during the vote which took place in New York during the 70th plenary session of the UN General Assembly for a 3-year term. Algeria will work with the 46 other members of this UN body in favor of oppressed peoples and international law.
C'est une élection attendue, donc personnellement, et vu la quasi-majorité des votants pour notre pays.
It is an expected election. This majority of votes for our country confirms 4 things. The first one is that Algeria has fulfilled the 2 mandates between 2006 and 2022. The second one is in relation to the level of sophistication of our international diplomacy. The third thing is also in relation to the national balance in terms of human rights, and the fourth component is in relation to the reform of the Constitution of 2022. This accession of Algeria to the HRC from January 1st, 2023, which is the third since the creation of the Council in 2006, will enable it to work for the promotion and protection of human rights throughout the world. But not only that, it will strengthen its candidacy for a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council for the period from 2024 to 2025 in the elections scheduled for June 11th, 2023. Member of Parliament of the Council of the United Nations is something that is already done in relation to the African Union because it is linked to it. The consensus is practically respected. There are 2 answers that support my analysis. The first one is the exceptional mandate of Algeria during the 20s, and the second one in relation to Algeria's African diplomacy. In a geopolitical context in full mutation, the Algerian diplomacy led by the President of the Republic found its place in the Council of Nations.
In a different context, attempts to smuggle huge quantities of cannabis via the border with Morocco were thwarted by detachments of the National People's Army, which also carried out several operations leading to the arrest of 5 terrorist supporters across the national territory. Story by Sabrina Ferginit.
Within the framework of the fight against terrorism, detachments of National People's Army arrested 5 individuals supporting terrorist groups in separate operations carried out across the national territory, while another detachment seized 1 Kalashnikov-type submachine gun during search patrol in Adrar. Concerning the fight against organized crime and continuity with the intense efforts aimed at countering the scourge of narco-trafficking in our country, combined detachments of National People's Army have arrested in coordination with various security services during various operations carried out across military regions 65 drug traffickers and thwarted attempts to smuggle huge quantities of drugs across the borders with Morocco, amounting to 8 quintals and 76 kilograms of treated cannabis, while 475,772 psychotropic tablets were seized. Detachments of National People's Army also intercepted in the provinces of Tamanrasset, Burj-Baji Mukhtar, and Gizam and Janet 69 individuals and seized 21 vehicles, 50 generators, 29 jackhammers, 19 tons of raw gold and stone mixture, detonating tools and equipment used in illegal gold mining operations. 62 other individuals were apprehended, 17 hunting rifles, 1 automatic gun, 16,609 cartridges, huge quantities of foodstuff intended for smuggling, estimated to 258 tons, as well as 80 quintals of tobacco, 129,255 pyrotechnic article units, 6,030 units of various drinks, and 29.5 tons of copper scrap were seized in Burgla, Al-Wad, Al-Ghawat, Biskra, Jilfa, Ain Gizam, Tiaret, Maskar, Suqahras, Batna, and Skikda provinces. For their part, border guards thwarted in coordination with the services of the National Gendarmerie attempts to smuggle large quantities of fuel amounting to 53,723 liters in Burj-Baji Mukhtar, Tibissa, Suqahras, and Tarf provinces. Finally, the Coast Guard thwarted at the level of our national coast attempts of illegal immigration and rescued 293 individuals on board of homemade boats, while 107 illegal immigrants from different nationalities were arrested through the national territory.
Mandla Mandela, member of the South African Parliament and grandson of the African icon Nelson Mandela, reaffirmed his country's solidarity with the Sahrawi people, stressing that it is impossible to remain silent in the face of the illegal Moroccan occupation. The details with Sabrinta Ferganit.
The fourth UN Committee, a committee on decolonization, was marked by recalling on the right of freedom and self-determination of Sahrawi people fighting for their independence, applying by that the international law. Mandla Mandela, member of the South African Parliament and grandson of Nelson Mandela, was present and renewed his country's solidarity with the liberation struggle of Sahrawi people.
We demand that Morocco relinquish its imperialist ambitions in Western Sahara and end occupation now. We demand an immediate end to the occupation. We demand the release of all political prisoners languishing in Moroccan jails. We demand that the long-promised referendum on self-determination be implemented without further delay. Freedom cannot be imprisoned, and the truth cannot be concealed.
He called on the Moroccan occupation to abandon its expansionist policy and stressed the obligation of working towards making things right and unit in order to fight for decolonization in Africa as quick as possible.
I speak to you as an African for whom the very thought that in this 21st century we can still countenance colonial occupation on our beloved continent is a disgrace and a shame that must be eradicated. We must, as a collective, work together to set matters right, and through forums such as this, ensure that the fight for the decolonization of Africa's last colonial outpost is brought to a speedy end.
Pointing out the similarities between what his country has witnessed and the current situation of Sahrawi people living under occupation, Mandla Mandela reaffirmed the continuous mobilization movement of international solidarity with this just cause.
Moving on to Western Sahara, where the Wizard Camp hosted the activities of the 47th Memorial of the Declaration of the Sahrawi National Union, an event marked by the participation of foreign delegations. On the occasion, the Sahrawi President Ibrahim Ghali reaffirmed the importance of the fight for decolonization in Africa. Sabrinta Ferganit once again.
Republic and with a unified voice, repeating the slogan of "We die united and we will not live divided." This is how Sahrawi people immortalized the works of the Declaration of the Sahrawi National Union in Wizard Camp. The Sahrawi President Ibrahim Ghali stressed on the necessity of the United Nations and the African Union to be up with their responsibility and to respect the will of Sahrawi people in their self-determination right. It is time for the Security Council to take its responsibility. There is no mystery concerning the Western Sahara cause and the right of its people. The only just solution concerning the conflict in Western Sahara that aligns with the treaty and the decisions of the United Nations is the one that has the full respect for the will of Sahrawi people. It is time for France and the European Union in general to be an influential actor for a fair and sustainable solution for the conflict in Western Sahara. Certainly, despite Spain's certain outrageous positions and decisions, it cannot ignore its responsibility that differs from other nations. The Memorial of the National Union represents a constant struggle for Sahrawi people in order to achieve freedom and independence. The National Union is a vital pillar for the building of the Sahrawi nation. Spanish people were shocked by the decision of the Spanish government. We support people's rights for freedom. Strong messages are sent by Sahrawi people through the works of the 47th Memorial of the Declaration of the National Union in order to liberate Saqi al-Hamra and Wad al-Dahab.
In Morocco, and according to the United Nations, the arbitrary arrest of the Moroccan journalist Souleymane Raissouni represents a violation of human rights. They also demanded the Moroccan authorities to immediately release Raissouni. Story by Melissa Kabash.
Imprisoned since May 2022, Souleymane Raissouni sentenced on appeal in February for 5 years of prison. This former editor-in-chief of the Arab newspaper Akhbar al-Yawm has been arrested due to his opinions. His supporters denounced a political trial. Following an examination of his case, the Working Group of the United Nations on Arbitrary Detention concluded that the violation of the right to a fair trial is that of gravity, making Raissouni's trial arbitrary. The group estimated that the appropriate measures consist on immediately releasing the journalist, expressing the deep concern on his physical and psychological well-being. The Moroccan journalist had undertaken a hunger strike from April to August 2021, which led to numerous consequences. According to the United Nations experts, he was absent during most of his trial between February and July 2021 due to his hunger strike that lasted 122 days. He was arrested 2 days after the release of his editorial, in which he denounced the authorities for their overzealous in the application of legislation on the state of emergency during the COVID-19 pandemic. Several manifestations were organized by thousands of human rights activists and journalists, denouncing this conviction and qualifying it as unfair and outrageous.
And we wrap up our today's news with sports. And following the qualifiers of the North African School for Football Championship, the young Algerian selection beat Morocco with a score of 7-0. A heavy score which caused the withdrawal of the Moroccan team before the end of the match. Congratulations to our athletes.
هينسحبوا خلاص عدي يا دكتور هو كام؟ 7.
And with this, our today's news edition comes to a close. Thank you for tuning in.